It's on? I think we're here.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, we're here. All right, just so everyone knows, you've actually stumbled upon the Chunk podcast, and this particular podcast is the Week 8 in the NFL preview, and obviously there was a lot of action last week in Week 7, none of which involved the Green Bay Packers, so I naturally took a nap, and that's how I spent my Sunday. No, I'm kidding. I watched most of the games as much as I could while I was at Universal. We did a little getaway in Orlando. And we're at Universal, but I was streaming it on my cellular device, and my data plan does not thank me. I'm not happy with my overages. But JJ is here, and we are ready to talk some Week 8 in the NFL. What's going on with you, man?
Things are going well. It's I can't believe it's already the end of October. We're about halfway through the NFL season, and the Jets haven't fully disappointed me yet. So I think I'm good.
Yeah, no, that's all you can really ask for at this point. Unfortunately, as a Packers fan, I am a little disappointed with where we're at. But we're coming out of a bye week. I think we're going to get smacked on the face with two pretty difficult games. But we'll get to that once we get to the preview. But we do want to start the show with something a little different, and it's called Ask the Chunk, or Ask the Chunkers, either way. But we have a few questions from some outsiders, some people who listen, some chunkers out in the real world. And we do want to open the show a little differently and try to answer and help these people out with their questions as it pertains to the NFL and some of the recent news. With like this first one here, it says, who do you think won the Amari Cooper trade? I don't know if anyone's heard. Amari Cooper has been traded. John Gruden is clearing house in there, and I'm not sure. I mean, he's for what he got for Amari Cooper, he got a first-round draft pick from the Dallas Cowboys, which I can't believe that somehow someone gave up a first-round draft pick for Amari Cooper. But who do you think won the Amari Cooper trade, JJ?
Yeah, and several of our chunkers out there asked this question. Personally, I think the Raiders won. Amari Cooper a few years ago, may have been worth a first-round pick, maybe, but he really hasn't done much to impress the last couple of years. We were talking last week or 2 weeks ago that the Cowboys needed some help in the way of receivers. So in that way, Jerry Jones, did try and fill a need for their team. I think they realized that maybe this division is something that they have a chance at winning. But I think ultimately the Raiders are the ones who won this trade. That first-round pick they got for Amari Cooper is their third first-round draft pick that they're going to have for the 2019 draft.
Yeah. The NFC East is their butt cheeks. So yeah, anybody in that division, I think even the Giants, who have only won like one game, I think could still theoretically win the division because of how bad it's been. And we're talking the division with the defending Super Bowl champions. But I think you're right. I think a first round pick for Amari Cooper, who's been a massive disappointment aside from like his rookie season. I think that's a pretty decent overpay, and I'm pretty sure that the price was hovering around a second-round pick, and I think the Cowboys were just like, nah, let's get our guy, and I guess Amari Cooper is their guy moving forward. And the more I talk, the more I dislike my voice, by the way. I just want everybody to know this is not what I actually sound like. I'm actually going through puberty right now, becoming a man, and my voice is changing. Now, I got some weird throat thing going on, but that's not going to stop me from ravaging it with the back-to-back podcast that we're recording right now. But as far as the Amari Cooper trade, definitely the Raiders win. I mean, anytime you can get a first-round draft pick and basically recoup the sunken cost that was Amari Cooper and try to get somebody who may be better than Amari Cooper, then absolutely. John Gruden kind of made up for what he did with Khalil Mack, but still the Khalil Mack trade.
Well, what's crazy about this, too, is isn't Amari on his last year of his contract with the I guess I just... I read something online where basically John Gruden said, Jerry, if you give me a first-round pick, I'll give you Amari Cooper. And Jerry was like, okay, sounds good to me. And Gruden was like, okay, sure, here, have Amari Cooper. He's been really, really bad. Hey, do you want a quarterback too? Because we're willing to get rid of him as well.
Yeah.
The Raiders are pretty bad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think they're in full tank mode at this point. I mean, the way there's some stuff going on with Derek Carr right now where he's now like dejected and like not even a part of the team anymore. It's really weird what's going on over there. John Gruden's come up there and just put his stank on like everything, and the people who are rejecting it will probably be shipped out and moved out, and they're basically just giving John Gruden free reign of the franchise, which you're paying him that kind of money to come out of the booth. He was doing Monday Night Football back when it was halfway decent. Now it's god awful. But we won't get into that. Jason Witten can't call a game. I say we won't get into it, and now I immediately start talking about it. Anyway, it's bothering me. But Amari Cooper, obviously, to me, the Raiders, I think the consensus is Raiders win this trade. And I'm curious to see how his career is affected by, like now, I mean, people were watching him with the Raiders. He was a first-round draft pick. But you were just traded for a large draft capital. I want to see now, is he going to live up to it? Like, is he going to be prime Des Bryant? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's tough for me to see at this point in his career, but who knows? A couple other questions we've got. Which coaches are on the hot seat? This comes from Curtis in Florida.
Well, I would put Todd Bowles right up on there. He's coming off 2 5-11 seasons, and I don't think that he's the answer for the Jets. I think I've talked about it before, but his game management, his lack of ability to use timeouts strategically at all whatsoever, and just his offenses have always struggled. I don't know if it's his inability to develop offensive talent or what, but I think Todd Bowles, if they don't win like 6 games or more, I think he's definitely in the hot seat.
It's tough to kind of blame him with the rookie quarterback, but I feel like he's had a chance to kind of do his thing, and there's not a lot coming from it. And by the way, speaking of the Jets, I have no idea what just happened to Bilal Powell, by the way. I looked at the news. Apparently he had like life-threatening injuries or career-threatening injuries. What just happened?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he left the game, somewhere in the middle of the game because he hurt his neck, but he walked off the field. It's not like he got stretchered or, carted off. I guess they found out later that he's going to have to get definitely season-ending in surgery, but potentially career-ending surgery. It's a real shame because I love Bilal Powell. He's been a Jet his entire career. For me, he was always kind of one of my favorite breakout candidates, just being stuck behind other backs that were getting the time that I think he deserved, but not a great way to go out.
Yeah,
Bilal has a speedy recovery.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the tweet that I saw is he went. Obviously, he's on IR now. They're saying it could be a career-ending injury, but they're saying it's more serious than the one Quincy Enunwa suffered last year. That he was recovering from forever. It felt like he took him forever to come back, and he finally came back. And now that the Jets are kind of in shambles right now, but you do have Isaiah Crowell though, so you can always count on the Crow.
Yes. Except for, I don't know. There's a ton of Jets that are banged up. And I think I read somewhere that we brought a practice squad safety up to play in the game the other day.
Nice.
And we had our return man running as a receiver. So they're really, really hurting. They signed Rashard Matthews from the Titans, but I just don't see it getting any better with this crazy schedule that they have.
Yeah, well, I thought for sure Jermaine Kearse would have blew up last week in fantasy football. I picked him up and started him in a different league that I was in, and the dude got no points, didn't catch a single ball. I was kind of saddened by that.
Yeah, apparently it was real windy up north here, and they were struggling the entire time. It seems to be the case that when the Jets can't get a run game going, they don't do very well in the air either.
Yeah. Okay, but to continue the conversation about coaches in the hot seat, while you bring up your favorite team's head coach, I will do the same with Michael McCarthy. I don't understand the fascination with him, which, by the way, it sucks because I did defend him his entire career until this season in particular. I'm just fed up. I want change. I want something different. I think there's people and playmakers that are on the team that aren't getting the amount of touches that they deserve. Aaron Jones. But no, he's a super talented running back. I don't understand why he's not getting. I don't know. He's just obsessed with the running back by committee, and as a fantasy fan, I am saddened by it. As a Packers fan in general, you give your best the players who give you the best chance to win the most opportunities, and he's only getting like 6 carries a game, but he's averaging like 7 yards a carry. So this doesn't make any sense to me. But that's obviously one thing on a laundry list of reasons why Mike McCarthy's ineptitude has only gotten Aaron Rodgers 1 Super Bowl in his entire career. When he's, to me, and it sounds biased, but genuinely, I think he's the best quarterback I've ever seen play, ever. And the fact that he's only got 1 Super Bowl makes me sad.
Yeah, actually, when we were asking our chunkers for questions, somebody brought up, if Aaron Rodgers was on the Patriots, how many more Super Bowl rings would he have than Tom Brady?
Yeah.
And it really, I think it just goes to show that you could have the best quarterback in the league, and if you aren't able to build a team around him, you're just not going to be able to get it done. Somebody else that I was thinking about hot seat wise, do you think that the coach from the Cowboys is on the hot seat potentially?
Garrett? Why? Why would he be on the hot seat? He just got a brand new toy in Amari Cooper, the best player in the league. But no, yeah, I agree. He's to me always been someone who's kind of on the hot seat. But he has a weird relationship with Jerry Jones. I don't. It's like it doesn't ever feel like he's going to get fired. It feels like he should be sometimes, but I feel
kind of like Marvin Lewis.
Yeah, it's weird. He's like oddly safe for some reason, and I don't understand it. But you're right. I mean, he should probably be on this list of coaches in the hot seat. But that's just a few of them right there. I mean, I'm sure that just will any of those 3 get fired? Probably not. It'll be somebody we haven't even talked about. So.
Yeah, if you disagree with us, or if you think there's something more here in any of these questions, please, write us at thechunkpod@gmail.com. You can tweet at us or message us at Facebook or Instagram. We're happy to hear your rantings, and we're happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, obviously, any questions that you guys have, you can reach out to us for sure. We have a couple more here, but I mean, did you have anything else to say about coaches in the hot seat, or?
No. I was going to say that this next question is interesting as we get here to week 8. Asked by Stephen Pincus from New Jersey and Maryland, respectively. What will Le'Veon Bell's impact be if and when he returns from hiatus?
Oh, okay. Now, if we're talking, there's 2 different sides to this. Are we talking fantasy impact, or are we talking about real life impact? Because I can tell you from fantasy, if you're an owner of James Conner and or Le'Veon Bell, it's going to be a very confusing time for you, because we're going to be talking. James Conner's been unbelievable. He's been awesome. I have him in a couple leagues, and I don't want Le'Veon Bell to come back. And to be honest with me, or with everybody, I just think when he does come back, it's going to be a really weird situation where you have this dude who's been uber successful and has stood by the franchise. Obviously, I mean he's got the starting job because Le'Veon Bell's been holding out, but he hasn't failed you. You know what I mean? He's if anything, he's met or exceeded your expectations of what a Le'Veon Bell it could have done for you. So, I mean, I get fantasy-wise coming back, it's going to be weird. When he does come back, if you intend to use him, it's going to be weird for the locker room, I think, whenever that all comes to fruition. But it's going to be a strange situation for sure.
Yeah, Juju Schuster-Smith decided to buy 100 lottery tickets in the hopes that he would win and be able to get Le'Veon back to the field.
Jeez.
For those of you fantasy owners that have stuck with Le'Veon, I do think that he'll be worth at least a flex position when he does start playing again. I can't see Mike Tomlin not giving James Conner a little bit of relief in his pitch count, so to speak. But I do agree, it's going to be weird. I mean, all the Steelers players have to know that this is Le'Veon's last year in Pittsburgh. So, it's hard to tell exactly what his workload will be. I would imagine that I don't know. Is he like still in shape? Is he a little chubby from his hiatus?
Well, they were making some video surfaced of him riding a jet ski in Miami, and they were like, "Man, he's looking a little pudgy." But let's be real; these are like professional athletes. I'd imagine that by the time he knows when he's coming back. You know what I mean? And he's going to be ready to play when he comes back. At least that's what I think. However, if I'm the Steelers, I would find it hard. I would find it hard to just be like, okay, you're back. All right, here's your job. You know what I mean? And do that to James Conner, and then there's already a rift between you and Le'Veon Bell. Don't make a rift with James Conner when he may be the guy that you're left with at the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes, though. I'm a big Le'Veon fan. In a totally biased way, I really hope that the Jets use their fat cap space to sign him as the future running back for the New York Jets. But really, this offseason, the Le'Veon sweepstakes is going to be really exciting. But yeah, if you're a fantasy owner, we'll see how it goes when it comes to his points.
Yeah, Lynch in our league has James Conner and Le'Veon Bell, and he's got more wins than I do. So I'm definitely I'm hoping Le'Veon Bell comes back and jacks that whole thing up for him, so he can get the same production that James Conner's been giving him, spread evenly between two players and not just one. That's what I want to see because I'm a jerk. But one more question, and it's from James in North Carolina. He says, who's going to hire Mike McCarthy when the Packers fire him? This is my favorite question we've received so far. And to be honest, I have no idea. Probably the Cardinals. I don't know. I feel like the Cardinals are somebody who would make a terrible decision and hire Mike McCarthy. But again, will he be fired? I don't know. Do I want him to be fired? And do I want a change? Absolutely, I do.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Packers. Their team has just kind of devolved over the course of the last few years. Aaron Rodgers, they got him basically set up a chair for him to receive the ball snap-wise, and then he just kind of gets up a little bit, chucks the ball, sits back down, hopes that his depleted wide receiver core can catch it, and then he hobbles down the field to get to do it all over again. Even the defense, like the Clay Matthews, crazy Green Bay Packers defense of a few years ago. What happened?
Well, we let players walk instead of re-signing them because we're foolish. Casey Hayward is the point I keep coming back to. He's now like a Pro Bowl cornerback for the Chargers, and we just let him walk without even trying to re-sign him. It was to me one of the worst things. Ted Thompson is just as culpable as Mike McCarthy, if you ask me. I think they're both. If they cleared house, I don't think Aaron Rodgers would mind, and I don't think any of the fans would mind at this point. I think they're ready for like a change, and we don't want to waste the last few years of Aaron Rodgers while he's here with us. You know what I mean? He can play for another 5 years probably, and if we don't go back to a Super Bowl in 5 years, then it's on whoever's running the franchise. So,
I mean, dude, he is setting Aaron Rodgers up to be the next Dan Marino.
Yeah, well, luckily he's already got one championship, so he can have that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, like to have only one is depressing. I mean,
the quarterback that coulda.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. Good questions. I could answer that question for you every single week. I think Mike McCarthy should be fired. And I stand by that. Unless Mike McCarthy wants to come on the podcast and give me a reason why he shouldn't be, but he doesn't owe me that, and I don't think, obviously, that's probably not going to happen. Maybe if he gets fired, we'll bring him on here and be like, listen, you got nothing else going on.
What happened, man?
What happened? What could you have done better? I don't know. Everything. Okay. Anyway, thank you for all the questions. Ask the Chunk was I love it. I think we should start every show like this. And moving forward, we'll be taking your questions. You can send them to thechunkpod@gmail.com. You can email them to us, or you can mail us some snail mail. No, I'm kidding. We don't have an address. But at the Chunk Pod on social media, if you want to get to us, you can find us on Facebook, or you can just comment on wherever you're listening to the podcast, and we'll get back to you on it. It'll be awesome. So I guess the whole point of this podcast is the Week 8 preview, and if you stuck around this long, we're going to dive right into it. So at Week 8 in the NFL, like you said earlier, I can't believe it's already Week 8. It's crazy to me. I feel like we just drafted our fantasy football teams And yet here we are in week 8, halfway through the season, and I'm scrambling to try to get into that last playoff spot. I think you and I are both trying to do that.
Yeah, I mean, my team, I'm 2-5. I'm on a 3-game losing streak. What's crazy though is it's so depressing. I'm number 4 in terms of coaching. And if you don't use the NFL fantasy app, what that means is I've blown the 4th least points by leaving dudes on my bench. In terms of how my schedule would be if I played anybody else any other week, I'm in 4th place, meaning that I would have won a ton of other games if my schedule worked out better. But overall, right now, I'm 11th place out of 12. So, yeah, I mean, historically, what has it been? 6 or 7 wins to get into the playoffs for our league?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. It's going to be tough. I think at least 7, but the way I see it right now, you're only 1 game back from a playoff spot because 3 and 4 right now is a playoff spot. You just have to be the lead of the 3 and 4, and there's 5 teams at 3 and 4 right now. So, and myself included. But I told everybody all I needed to do is win 1 out of the first 4, and I did. And then I told him I'd see him in the playoffs because I waited on Mark Ingram, which by the way I actually just traded Mark Ingram, so things are going to get awkward there. But I had been hyping him all season, but I needed wide receiver help, and I wound up scoring Cooper Kupp, who's coming back from an injury.
Nice.
Well, he's coming back from an injury at some point. Nobody knows, but I got Cooper Kupp and Kenny Galladay for Ingram and your boy Calvin Ridley, who you gave to me. So he's getting passed around. But anyway, we can dive right into Week 8 of the NFL and the Thursday night game, which is the Miami Dolphins taking on the Houston Texans. This game is in Houston, and I believe Brock Osweiler will still be quarterbacking the Dolphins. I don't think that's confirmed yet, but Tannehill sat out the last 2 games. And honestly, Brock Osweiler hasn't been terrible.
Yeah, the Brock Lobster has, continued to keep his career alive here. The Dolphins are really an enigma to me because I feel like they're really not a 4-3 team. I feel like they're definitely the worst 4-3 team in the league. But yet again, they've been playing pretty well, and they shellacked the Jets the last time they played. I just nobody on their team really strikes me as kind of an all-star.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how the season will play out for them.
Well, there were high hopes for Kenyon Drake, who is actually coming on finally. He's getting some touches and actually doing something with them. Albert Wilson's now on IR, who was probably their biggest playmaker. The dude was unbelievable. He's now on IR. It looks like Danny Amendola is like the only dude left to catch balls. I don't know what's going on with Devontae Parker either. He was supposed to come back at some point. There's like this rift between them. There's a lot going on. You're right. I don't know that they're a winning football team, a plus over 500 football team, right? Like at the end of the season, but somehow right now they're 4-3, and they are playing a very winnable game, I think, against the Houston Texans. Who Deshaun Watson? I don't know what's going on. I heard he has like a collapsed lung or something like that, and they're still rolling him out.
Well, what's crazy, like the Texans, I wasn't high on because, all right, you beat the Colts, sure, you beat the Cowboys, sure, you beat the Bills, but then they went out last week and beat the Jaguars, and now I'm not so sure. Like both of these teams, I think are playing, they're playing better than expected, and I really kind of view this as a toss-up, but I gave it to the Texans just because I think they got more firepower.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Brock Osweiler. I can't imagine Brock Osweiler with nobody to throw to is going to win this game in Houston. But I do expect the Texans to win this game, so I think that's pretty much the consensus here with us. So moving on, we'll go to the defending Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles, going to who I picked earlier in the preseason to be in the Super Bowl. They're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. And yes, that's right. I said I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, and I am regretting it currently. So to me, honestly, I obviously Philadelphia Eagles, I picked in this game. Things have changed with the Jaguars and the instability with Blake Bortles, and now even the coaching staff. They pulled him last game for Cody Kessler, who is not an upgrade, but is almost like kind of like they did it for a little shock value, maybe to so Blake Bortles can get his head out of his ass and kind of get things back in order. But what do you think about this one?
I mean, I can't think of two more disappointing teams in the NFL right now. I mean, Eagles fans were so stoked to have them make a great run this year. You know, they lost that early game against the Buccaneers, which we all thought was just the Fitz magic, you know. But then they barely beat the Colts. They lost to the Titans, lost to the Vikings. Sure, they beat the Giants on Thursday Night Football, but then they went out and lost to the Panthers. They gave up a 17-0 lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. I like
and then the Jaguars are like just as bad with the teams that they're losing to. So I gave it to the Eagles just because I think that they've been less disappointing.
Yeah, I agree, and we haven't really touched on it, but the Jaguars did trade for Carlos Hyde, and they will get that. Which Leonard Fournette owners in fantasy are like, what the hell's going on? And B, if you have T.J. Yeldon, he's going to be rendered useless, I think, at this point. So Carlos Hyde's going to be kind of like a stopgap until Leonard Fournette can come back because they're not going to give the job to Hyde. Leonard Fournette is their guy and is their future. It's just there's been a lot of hamstring injuries flying around this league, and unfortunately, Leonard Fournette and Dalvin Cook especially have been dealing with injuries all season. So, but to me, with halfway decent quarterback play, if Blake Bortles can just keep it simple and not turn the ball over, the Jaguars are still a really good team. Did I pick them this week? No, because I need to see it. I need to see him get back to just keeping it simple. But I picked the Eagles in this one, and that's why.
Well, the other thing about the Jaguars is their defense, which thrived on turnovers last year, just hasn't been doing it this year. They've been pretty turnover-less for the last few games, and I think it's starting to show.
Actually, you know what? I just realized I said it was in Jacksonville. This game's actually in London, which changes everything for me. Because the Jaguars it's a home game for the Jaguars because they played every year in London. And I'm pretty sure the Jaguars have been like half adopted by London. I may change my pick, man. I don't know. The Jaguars do something over there. It gets weird.
I mean, who knows? It'll be a 9:30 a.m. game for those of you that are on the East Coast with us. So have fun with that.
Yeah, no, I love waking up. And it's kind of like when it's a little sneak peek or sample of living on the West Coast when you get to it's morning, you're having a brunch, and the 1 o'clock games that are normally 1 o'clock Eastern games start for you. I think it's an awesome thing to. But the worst part is you only get one game, and no matter how good or bad it is, that's what you're stuck with. But at least it's something to bridge the gap till 1 o'clock, which the 1 o'clock games we can just jump right into, like the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Carolina Panthers. I think this is going to be a pretty good game. I do have both of these teams in the playoffs, I believe. The way the Panthers have been playing, it's been tough for me to pick against them.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching that Eagles game where they came back and beat the Eagles. They look pretty. Really good on the offense. They got Funchess, they got McCaffrey. Cam is still making plays. I kind of see the Panthers and the Ravens kind of on equal footing in a lot of ways, but given kind of the streaks that they're on lately, I also selected the Panthers for this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Ravens, I don't know, overall I think might be the better team from top to bottom, but I think the Panthers, especially at home, find a way to get this win. And from a fantasy owner's perspective, Christian McCaffrey is essentially the running back version of Julio Jones. All yards, all catches, no touchdowns. Cam Newton is like a red zone goal line scumbag. The dude takes every freaking touchdown, man. It's really upsetting me because if literally one touchdown with the Christian McCaffrey game, he's our top 5 running back for the week if he just can get one touchdown because of how many yards and how many catches he gets. I just want one, man. Can you just give one? Throw him a freaking bone.
Nah, dude, he needs to do that Superman thing.
No, I know. Yeah, it's for branding purposes. But anyway, hopefully as he gets older, maybe, well, and by older I mean this week, a week older, he'll be able to wisen up and give McCaffrey a touchdown. But I do think the Panthers win this game. Moving on, the Denver Broncos, who just demolished the Arizona Cardinals, who looked absolutely pathetic, and oh gosh, it was depressing. Probably the worst football game I've ever seen on Thursday Night Football ever. But the Denver Broncos go to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs, a much different football team than the Arizona Cardinals. I think it's pretty obvious who we're picking in this one. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs are absolutely rolling.
Yeah, you can't pick against Mahomes, Enrique, and Kareem, and dude, their offense is so nasty, and they almost beat the Patriots. They look so good. The Broncos lost to the Jets. Let's be real here. Sure, they were able to beat the Cardinals, but there's no way that they beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think if the season ended today, we wound up with a Kansas City Chiefs, LA Rams Super Bowl, I don't think anybody would be mad. I want to see it. Like, I really do want to see both of those teams because they're so obviously fully healthy, but the firepower on those teams and their defense. I think the Chiefs' defense is not on the same level as the Rams, but I think by season end they have so many players coming back from injury. And there's Patrick Peterson still up for grabs in the trade market. He's a possibility. The Chiefs have a lot of potential on that side of the ball, and I think as the season goes on, they're going to become a more complete football team. But I would be excited for Chiefs-Rams Super Bowl right now.
Well, I think I picked Jags-Rams Super Bowl in our way too early preview podcast.
These damn Jaguars. They better get it together. There's a lot of no money riding on this. There's a lot of it's just bragging rights, I think, at this point. But
glory,
yes,
chunk
glory. Yeah, that's all we can ask for. Because we're not getting paid, but we're going to get some glory. The Cleveland Browns are taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Did they already play each other before? I feel like they already played.
Yes, they played earlier in the season.
So they're playing both of their matchups before. It's just halfway through the season, or before halfway through the season. They're all going to be done playing each other. That's weird to me.
They played the first game of the season and they tied.
Yes. Okay. I hope they tie again, just for fun. But no, I do think I picked the Browns in this one. I said from day one, I think the Steelers are not the team that we thought they were. And of course, early in the season, after the first two games, it was a tie and a loss, and I was like, I told you, they're awful. And now all of a sudden they have a winning record, and I think they're leading their division right now. So I don't know how. Actually, I do know how. They have a pretty decent football team, so I should probably give them a little more credit. When Ben Roethlisberger's on, obviously Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Conner, like we mentioned earlier in the podcast, is just crushing it. They're a really good football team, but division rivals, the Browns are no joke anymore. I think they show up for this game, and they steal one in Pittsburgh. That's what I think.
The Browns have lost 3 games in overtime this season, and then they have that tie against – I mean, every single one of their losses except for the Chargers game have been a field goal or less. So, I mean, one thing goes different for these Browns, and they're not 3-2-1. They're 5-1. Whatever, 6-0.
Oh my God!
Isn't that crazy? I think the Browns are much better than they look on paper. They got, they just. I think the Steelers are on a downturn. For all you Pittsburgh fans, I think it's time for you guys to go into a rebuilding phase for once, and then the Patriots can, follow right after you guys. But I think it might be the year of the Brown.
Yeah, I think in this particular game. By the way, if anybody was just listening, it's okay. I'm not dead. I was just choking on water. It's okay. Sometimes breathing or drinking water is difficult for me because I inhale it. But just so everyone knows, I did not just die on the podcast. So, so are you picking the Browns too?
I picked the Browns.
Okay, it's going to be a popular pick, I'm sure. The Browns have been like everyone's little like hot little mama that they want to like slide in and be ahead of the game on. Everybody wants to pick the Browns, and this week's no exception for me. I'm down with the Brown. So, so yeah, I mean, you and I picked the Browns, so we'll see what everybody else picks. That article will be up on the thechunkpod.com. You can see everybody's picks. Which, by the way, after week 7, I'm atop the leaderboard. Anyway. The Seattle Seahawks are taking on the Detroit Lions. This game, I don't know. There's not a lot for me to get excited about with the Seahawks anymore. I know you had some investment in Russell Wilson. But they're going to Detroit, who I think Detroit is friggin' rolling right now. I think they're a really good team.
I got Doug Baldwin too.
Oh yeah,
Probably too many Seahawks for how they're looking this far in the season. This is another game that to me is kind of like a toss-up. The Seahawks, I feel like, always play to their competition, and the Lions always play down to their competition. I actually picked the Seahawks in this game.
Ooh.
But it could go either way, really. I just the Lions don't really have a great run game. I feel like, and it's tough. I like Matt Stafford a lot.
Kerryon Johnson has something to say about that. He actually just had his best game of the season, so I think you need to watch your mouth, young man.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Crowell had the best game of his career the other day, and look at where he's at right now.
Yeah, he's the lead back for the New York Jets with no competition around him, so I think things are pretty good for him right now. No disrespect to my boy Bilal Powell. I feel really bad. May he rest in peace. He's not actually dead. Sorry. Anyway. Okay, so I'm actually going to pick the Lions here, especially in Detroit. I think their team is a little more complete. They just traded. I gotta look up his name. I don't even really know who he is, but he.
They grabbed Snacks from the Giants.
Yes, Damon Snacks Harrison.
I might have to change my pick to the Lions. I forgot about
Well,
that.
do you think he's going to get up to speed and running right out the gate? I mean, he'll probably
Dude, he's
play
one of the
sparingly.
best run stoppers in the league. Easy.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. I mean, if he can. Oh, well, hold on. Can I even speak right now? If he can get in for a few snaps and actually make an impact, kind of like Khalil Mack did in his first game when they played the Packers, he made a crazy impact. So even just on a little snap count, I think it's going to help the defense a lot. So I'm definitely going to pick the Lions in this one, not just because of the trade. I just think their offense is light years above what the Seahawks can do. I think if they score 20 points, they're going to win by 10. That's what I think. But moving on, we'll take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to Cincinnati to play against the Cincinnati Bengals. I actually think this is going to be a pretty interesting matchup, too. Jameis Winston came back, did get the win last week, and I think the Bengals are kind of in a weird situation, too. They're both really good teams, and I say that about the Bucs right now, but I think the Bucs have a lot more potential. Obviously, we've seen it with Ryan Fitzpatrick. They have the potential to be a really good team. On offense, at least, I should say. Their defense is not so much. But if Jameis Winston can tap into any of that leftover Fitzmagic, if he can just dip into the bag and drink the Kool-Aid a little bit, I think this is going to be one of the better games of the week.
Yeah. So the Bengals right now are in the wild card spot, and the Buccaneers are at the top of the hunt for the NFC wild card spot. I like the Bengals just a little bit more in this game. I agree. Crab Legs, he's got those really, really good receivers. I feel like he's constantly running for his life, though. And when it comes to the Bengals, I mean, they're the Bengals. You know, they play to disappoint. I feel like, shout out to all you very, very sad Bengals fans. I kind of know how you feel.
Yeah.
But I just think it will be an interesting game, but I think the Bengals will probably come out on top.
Yeah, I agree. I did pick the Bengals in this one as well. Mainly because of the Buccaneers' defense. They're just inept on defense. But I think Joe Mixon probably pops off pretty good in this game. And I'm hoping for, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 AJ Green touchdowns this game. I'm thinking as a biased AJ Green owner, I would be a little excited about that. It seems like it's been a few weeks since he scored a touchdown, but I would like some touchdowns for anybody on my fantasy team. I'm only getting yards at this point. Somebody score a freaking touchdown, please. But we'll move on to your game of the week. It's the JJ special. The New York Jets are taking on the Chicago Bears, and I should just call him the Khalil Max at this point because the dude's been insane. Except for last week. It was the first time I'd ever seen him look like an actual human. I think he only played a few snaps. But what do you think about this one? They're going to Chicago. Do you think the Jets have a chance to upset in this one, in your unbiased opinion?
Look, I picked the Bears for this week. I mean, I think the Bears have been impressing in the last few weeks. They came real close to beating the Patriots, came real close to beating the Dolphins. they shellacked the Buccaneers and the Cardinals they barely beat. They beat the Seahawks. They barely lost to the Packers in the beginning of the season. I think this team's competitive. I think as long as they got a lot of skill players, Tariq Cohen and Jordan Howard finally showed up for once. The Jets defense is so depleted and the wide receiving core is so depleted that if the Bears lose to the Jets, then they should be super duper embarrassed because this Jets team is hurting. They got dudes coming up from the streets to play. That's my analysis.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't foresee the Jets winning this football game. I think the Bears defense smothers the Jets pretty decently in this game. I don't know if your boy Darnold can handle it. But Trubisky, what the hell's been going on with that dude? The dude's been slinging it over 300 yards the last 4 games. It's ever since that 6 touchdown game. He's been just fantasy wise unbelievable.
I actually picked him up in our league, and I'm starting him over Russell Wilson. He's got 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns halfway here through the season. So, he's on par for over 3K and 26 touchdowns, which I think is pretty good. When it comes to Darny Boy, it would be nice to see him. I mean, he looked absolutely awful last week, but I blame the receivers more so than him because they had 10 drops, I feel like. It would be nice if him and Rashard Matthews could kind of, get a few going, Jermaine Kearse a couple. But, I mean, Bilal out, Quincy Enunwa out, Robbie Anderson banged up.
Yeah.
Their starting center is out. It's bad. If the Bears lose, it is they should probably just pack it up for the rest of the season.
Yeah. All right. So the consensus is here we're picking the Bears. So we'll see. Maybe next week we'll come back and talk about how the Jets are potential Super Bowl winners, but probably not. So we'll move on. The Washington Redskins taking on the New York Giants in a divisional matchup. The Redskins have actually been surprising me. I don't understand how they are winning so many games, but they are, and the New York Giants unfortunately are not winning games. I think they're 1-6 right now, looking pretty pathetic out there.
Yeah. When the Giants drafted Saquon, thank you Giants. I'm a huge Saquon fan. I think that dude is a beast, and he is going to be the star of their franchise for a long, long time. But the Redskins coming out of nowhere, leading their division, and if they keep playing this way, they might steal this division from the Eagles and from the Cowboys, who came out of nowhere last week. I'm actually picking the Redskins just because of how bad the Giants have been, but also the Redskins are on a roll.
Yeah. This pick was pretty easy for me because, like you said, the Redskins are rolling pretty hard right now, and they look very good. Alex Smith is no joke, dude. He can get the job done, and he's got a pretty decent supporting cast around him currently. And then the Giants, like you said, they have been pretty butt cheeks all season long. However, if you're an Odell Beckham owner or a Saquon Barkley owner in fantasy football, you're at least getting your money's worth out of them, at least lately. I know Beckham took a while to turn the corner, but they're putting up huge numbers in losses, and really that's all you can ask for is some garbage time points. They're kind of like the Jaguars were a couple years ago, where it was just garbage time city for Blake Bortles, and when it was the end of the games, they were just getting buttloads of yards and touchdowns. That's kind of the Giants are right now. They don't really have a lot to play for. Eli Manning looks like he's out the door.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, just at this point, get us a top draft pick. Have fun doing it. But this season's pretty much a wrap for the Giants, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. It has to be Eli's last season as a Giant, if not as an NFL player. You got to figure that they're going to go out and draft somebody next year with their top draft pick. And I don't know much about this new coach, but to have the skill players on your offense that you have and to not be able to score mad points is, I don't know how much of it is Eli and how much of it is play calling. But either way, the Giants, I think, are due for a rebuild, which is cool because they have a few Super Bowl wins in the last 10 years. So
yeah, and it's not even like they need a whole lot for a rebuild. They're not far off. Literally, put a competent quarterback in place and then find some help on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, well, their offensive line is pretty butt cheeks too. But now that I say that, they just traded away one of their best defensive players for a 5th round draft pick. So, which way how do you want it? You know what I mean? Do you want to be good, or do you want to look at this point? It looks like they're tanking this season, and they're gonna try to do a quick reset for next year.
Tank, yes. Goes the Giants.
Moving on, the Indianapolis Colts, led by Andrew Luck, who has been just slinging it like crazy, are going to Oakland to take on the Raiders, who have just been absolutely depressing. So, and without Amari Cooper now, and without Marshawn Lynch, who's now on IR, what is left to watch there for the Oakland Raiders? There's really not much left.
Yeah, I mean, the Colts have been doing pretty good with Andrew Luck back, and Marlon Mack is looking really good too. He was tearing up the Jets a few weeks ago.
Don't get me started.
It's going to be a battle between the Raiders, the Cardinals, and the Giants for the top draft pick next year, and I guess we'll have to see who tanks better.
Yes, no, I agree. Marlon Mack looked really awesome. I'm not going to crown him right away, but I will say he had a hell of a game last week. And as somebody who drafted Marlon Mack, sat on him for a little bit, and then traded him before he came back. It was weeks before he came back, but I luckily I got some production from somebody. It kind of makes me sad to see him doing this or putting up those numbers last week on someone else's team. And now I want him back, of course. And at this point, I'm not paying the price I'm going to have to pay to get him back, especially after his best game. So I do think Marlon Mack is really good. I think Nyheim Hines is a good third down back. To me, Marlon Mack I think should be a 3-down back for them. But Nyheim Hines is a pretty good backup. And remember there was a whole back and forth with Jordan Wilkins and all those. Who was going to step up? Looks like Marlon Mack has come back and claimed the number 1 spot for the Colts. And definitely Andrew Luck has been slinging it out of his mind. So they're actually a team I see on the upswing. Their record does not reflect their actual skill. I think as the season progresses, they're going to be somebody who challenges for a playoff spot but doesn't get close enough to really threaten for one. You know what I mean? And they're going to be in that awkward middle ground range. That's where I see the Colts finishing this year.
Yeah, they might be able to sneak up there. The AFC isn't particularly competitive outside of the top teams right now.
Obviously
which are the Chiefs and the Patriots and the Chargers.
The obvious top teams are definitely going to be obvious. I'm curious to see how those last few spots are going to shake out, because it's never the teams you expect. And when the playoffs finally start, you're like, how the hell did this team make the playoffs? The Colts could be one of them right now. I mean, it's that open right now. I think that's the way the season's going to end. It's going to be pretty entertaining to watch. What will not be entertaining to watch is the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Arizona Cardinals. I don't want to spend too much time on this game other than the fact that I have David Johnson in fantasy, and them firing their offensive coordinator, Mike McCoy, I felt like I won the Super Bowl. I was like, here we go. It's finally going to happen. They're going to put it together. Byron Leftwich moves into the offensive coordinator spot for the Cardinals, and he's taken play call duties over, and he's the only dude who remained on the staff for the Cardinals that was there when Bruce Arians was there.
Byron Leftwich is a coach?
Yes.
I thought he was still playing quarterback.
No, man. You know what? The Jaguars probably could use him right now. But no, he's now the offensive coordinator, interim, depending on how it goes, but for the Arizona Cardinals. And he was there when he was on the staff when Bruce Arians was there, and David Johnson had his major breakout season. I'm hoping for some of that. If he calls a run up the middle with David Johnson, I'm going to puke. If that's the first play. Mike McCoy decided, I don't know if you looked at his flow chart of runs, they showed it in comparison to 1 week of Todd Gurley, who was all over the field, outside runs, inside runs. They're doing dump offs to him, but they showed the flow chart of runs for David Johnson, and it was like the dumbest looking thing I've ever seen. It was straight into the back.
A-gap,
Yeah, it was
much.
straight into the back of the center over and over again. And it oh God, it was disgusting to see. So if I see a run up the middle, I'm going to puke, even if it's just one. But I think Byron Leftwich is going to get a little more creative with David Johnson in this game.
Dude, what do they have to lose? They got Larry Fitz, who, God have mercy on him, deserves to be on a better team. They got Patrick Peterson trying to get off the team. And they got Rosen, who, looks like a rookie. And I mean, yeah, I don't know. The Cardinals have nothing to lose. They had their shot with Carson Palmer and blew it. The 49ers are going to win this game.
Yeah, I actually think the 49ers are going to win this as well. After seeing the game last week, there's no realistic way you can pick the Cardinals in this, unless you're very optimistic that an offensive coordinator change is going to make them a much more competent football team. But I can tell you, the play calling may be better. Rosen's decision making will not be. The dude, I don't know. He just, some of the throws that I watched in that game last week, it was disgusting. I could have thrown better balls, and of course that's what anybody critiquing this. I've never played organized football in my entire life, but I still felt like some of those throws were very, very questionable.
They should have taken Lamar.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm itching to see Lamar Jackson play, and actually Lynch picked him up in our fantasy league. And then immediately dropped him after I called him out on it. But he picked him up, and I was like, why would you pick him up? How is he worth a roster spot for you? And he was like, well, I'm kind of hoping for a Joe Flacco injury. And I was like, oh, that's okay. That's the way to play, I guess. So I think he was just kind of banking on an injury. But if Flacco goes down, or if they pull the plug on Flacco at any point, I think Lamar Jackson's going to be hell of a player. It's going to be awesome to watch. Another game, this is my game of the week, selfishly. It's a 4 o'clock game. It's the Green Bay Packers going to L.A., taking on the undefeated L.A. Rams. I am fully expecting to be slaughtered, and I really think that's the best way to come into this game, is to just come in thinking, man, we're going to get smacked, and then hopefully be pleasantly surprised by our ability to play. Hopefully it's magically different after we come out of the bye week, and we have a game plan for the Rams, but I am picking the Rams in this game. They've given me no reason not to pick them, other than the fact that they're playing the Packers, and that's not their fault. That's the schedule's fault.
Yeah, dude, you can't pick against the Rams. They are wrecking every single team, and the Packers are hurting. They're not using Aaron Jones. And we've already talked about the Mike McCarthy woes. The Rams are the better team. Personally, I thought that the Packers would be more competitive, and I guess they do still have a window to be competitive because they are the current 6th seed for the NFC, but I just think these teams are miles apart. I mean, maybe Aaron Rodgers comes out and slings it, and just goes nuts. He's always good for 3-4 touchdowns, I feel like, but I don't know. The Rams are just super sexy.
I will say we will be getting, I think I'm pretty confident in saying this, Geronimo Allison will be back. Randall Cobb, I think, will be back. So we will have, I think, our full receiving core. Devontae Adams is top 3 wide receiver in the league. The dude is unbelievable. And when you have Aaron Rodgers throwing it to you, it's not hard to do. All you have to do is just catch it. You don't really have to fight that much. But Devontae Adams is one of my favorite players in the league because A, I'm a Packers fan, and B, fantasy-wise, the dude just puts up numbers like crazy. And he, to me, one of, if not the most matchup-proof wide receiver in the league right now. But as a Packers fan, obviously I want the Packers to win, but I can't consciously pick them against the LA Rams. But I will be watching the hell out of that game. It's going to be fun to watch. And then moving on to the Sunday night game, the New Orleans Saints taking on the Minnesota Vikings. I believe I had this as a playoff matchup in the early season when we were doing our picks. So I am curious to see how this one shakes out. Although I also did think Dalvin Cook would be back by now, but he is not, and he won't be playing in this game. And honestly, what they're saying is he may not be back until the bye week. So if Vince is listening for whatever reason, I'm sorry I traded him to you. I honestly thought he'd be back by now, but thank you so much for AJ Green. He's so delicious. Anyway, I'm picking the Saints in this one. I think the Saints they're absolutely rolling with Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara back. I think the Saints are the
Michael
better team.
Thomas. Yeah, I picked the Vikings as well.
Wait, you picked the Vikings?
Sorry, I picked the Saints.
Oh, I was
My
like,
bad. I'm just staring at the Vikings.
Yeah.
I picked the Saints because their offense is disgusting, but they don't have a defense. So, I mean, it may be more exciting, kind of a barn burner matchup between Kirk Cousins and Drew Brees, one of the arguably best quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah.
And he's probably one of my favorite NFL players ever. But you just got to give it to the Saints. The Vikings have they've lost games that they shouldn't have lost so far this season, and the Saints are just they're steamrolling everybody.
Yeah, and
they
I
were
thought
the early victims of Fitzmagic, but since then, they've just been crushing.
Well, it's not like they weren't scoring points in that game against Fitzmagic, but you know what I mean. That Fitzpatrick game, they were both like over 40 points. But I will say about the Saints defense, they will be better. They traded for Eli Apple, who isn't necessarily a great cornerback, but he will absolutely help them on the defensive side of the ball, which makes me think again. The Giants are trading away everybody on their defense. They don't even care anymore.
And you know what I have to say? Like you may look at last week's game between the Vikings and the Jets, and the score doesn't tell the whole story. The Vikings really did not impress against the Jets. I mean, they should have handily won that game, and they never really got their run game going. I mean, Thielen was wrecking us. Wrecking us.
Thielen's unbelievable. Holy hell, that dude is.
I mean, he's incredible. He's probably a top 5 receiver, easy.
Yeah.
But they just, I don't know. They got some kinks to work out, I feel like, and so I think the Saints have the edge.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think the Saints take this one, but it is in Minnesota and it is on Sunday night, so who knows? Anything can happen. And then moving on to Monday night's game, how did the Buffalo Bills get a Monday night football game? I don't understand, let alone against the New England Patriots. This one is going to be sad. Really, no other way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills, they've got Josh Allen, who is even worse than Josh Rosen. And they just, I don't even know if they're rebuilding. They're just bad.
Yeah, they're not going to have, I don't think they're going to have LaShawn McCoy either, who actually just got pretty hurt. Chris Ivory, I believe, will be starting for this game, who came in last week, had a pretty decent game. I think he had over 100 scrimmage yards, too. What's that?
I love Ivory. And you know what, though? The Bills, they beat the Titans, who are supposedly supposed to be good.
No.
And they beat the Vikings 27-6. I mean, they seem to have this fluke ability.
Don't do it.
I mean, I would love to see them beat the Patriots.
Oh, obviously you're a Jets fan.
You can't pick against the Patriots.
Yeah. The Jets fan would love to see the Bills beat the Patriots. I've never heard anything like it. That's the hottest take ever said on a podcast. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the Patriots, the Bills are capable of surprising people. I don't think they're capable of surprising Bill Belichick and the Patriots. They haven't been for 20 years now. So it's like, I mean, what? They're in probably the worst shape they've been in the last 15 to 20 years. And it's just a weird situation that they're going to be in. So, on a Monday night football game, this has got least watched Monday night football game potential written all over it. Especially with if the Red Sox in the World Series somehow aligns this same night, ain't nobody gonna watch a Patriots game. You know what I mean? It's not even gonna be that. It's gonna be so weird. This is gonna be probably the lowest watched Monday night football game. That combined with the fact that the Monday night football crew and their whole display of their football game is getting absolutely bashed all over the internet. Just their little trio of Jason Witten, that I don't even know who the other guy's name is, Treberry or whatever the heck his name is, and the dude who just sits on the cart and you get to look at the back of his head for the game. I don't understand the broadcast that they're trying to do, but to me, they tried to bring on Jason Witten and they tried to make him Tony Romo, but he's definitely not Tony Romo.
Why not just get Tony Romo? I don't understand. He's much better and more interesting than any of those other guys.
I never thought I'd say this, but I freaking love Tony Romo. I love listening to him call the game. He's awesome.
I low key always liked Tony Romo as a quarterback too. I felt like he just never got the chance to go to the big show.
Yeah.
I mean, his story, his career is really incredible too. But yeah, yeah, dude. Don't even get me started on Monday Night Football. I think they should just get rid of it personally. That and Thursday nights, just get rid of them.
They should just go back to, I think they tried it for a few games, but just silence. I just want to hear the ambiance like I'm in the stadium. You know what I mean? Like no announcers, no nothing. Just show me the game, and we'll just figure it out. We'll leave it. We'll have to decipher it on the screen. I think it was successful for like one game. It was like a gimmick. I think they did it for a little while, but I don't know. I wouldn't mind catching it. Anything's better than what the trio that they have rolling out right now, but I don't know.
I feel like I just just get some like people, get some fans, pull them off the, off the street, get them in there, hook them up, and just see what they say. Have them just tell them, look, you got to talk about football the entire time.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Like, I'm just trying to imagine the broadcast being pushed to the side and like somebody's face on a webcam popping up on the side and saying, "Well, see what you got here is you got Tom Brady on the 10-yard line, and he's going to look for Robert Gronkowski. If he's in the end zone, he's going to throw him the ball, and Gronkowski's probably going to catch it." That's it.
Dude, they should get the dude from ESPN.
The Ocho.
Yeah, the Ocho. That's who they should get.
So Jason, was that
Football.
Jason Bateman? That was Jason Bateman, I think it was, in dodgeball.
No.
I'm pretty sure that was Jason Bateman as like the stoner guy. Oh my gosh, we'll have to look it up. Yeah,
now.
I'm 99% sure Jason Bateman, ESPN 8, the Ocho. Yes, it was. Cotton and Pepper, ESPN 8, the Ocho. Jason Bateman and Gary Cole. I don't know who Gary Cole is. Oh, no, I recognize that guy. But yeah, Jason Bateman was the dude. It's freaking hilarious.
Yeah, I feel like that would be more. Just like get Snoop Dogg in there. Who gives? It would be hilarious. Get some celebs in there because they're better than freaking Jason Witten. They should talk Jason Witten into going back to the Cowboys. That's how bad he is.
Yeah. I mean, he'd probably be better off there. But anyway, we can stop talking about the Monday Night Football nonsense. This game is going to be butt cheeks. I'm pretty sure we're all going to pick the Patriots, especially prime time on a Monday night. It's a no-brainer. But I guess that will wrap up Week 8. The Week 8 preview, we have actually just rolled over an hour. And if you are listening still, first off, what are you doing with your life? Second off, I know what you're doing with your life. You listen to the Chunk Podcast. You are an official chunker. And feel free to comment on anything we have out there. Obviously, we'll be posting this on Facebook, Twitter. Give us a follow. And just feel free to interact with us. Anything you may have heard that may have upset you, or maybe you want to chime in on some topics that we talked about on the show today, definitely reach out. We're very accessible, and we're definitely going to be looking forward to rolling out some other podcasts. Actually, right after this one, we'll be rolling out a gaming podcast where we'll be talking about some Spider-Man action too. So that'll be pretty fun.
Yeah. Other things coming up. We're going to do the mid-season check-in with Justin, I, and Lynch, talk about kind of our way too early predictions to see where they stand, if we want to give any updates to that. And then we're also going to be doing, Meet the Chunkers?
Hey, it's a Get to Know the Chunkers podcast because, listen, if you're listening this far into a Chunk podcast, you probably got a decent idea of who we are and what we stand for. But we are planning on doing a podcast of probably about 6 of us total, all on one podcast, just kind of getting to know each other and letting you know who we are, and as we get to know you, kind of figure it out. You can listen to us babble on about sports all day, but if you don't know who we are or what we are, you might get to know us a little bit better. We're going to do a podcast for that, and that's kind of kick off our interview segment and our interview portion of podcasting. We'll have a whole little wing for that on our website. So once we do the Get to Know the Chunkers, we're going to start reaching out to some other people, other podcasts, other gamers, other sports figures, other actors. We're
entertainers.
Yes, entertainers. We're getting all up in it, and it's going to be a fun little side project outside of the sports, entertainment, and gaming. We're going to bring in some figures and talk to them, get to know them a little better as well. So a lot to look forward to with the Chunk. And if you want to follow us, definitely you can listen to this. Obviously, if you're listening to it on something. If you didn't know, you can listen to it on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, our website, thechunkpod.com. You can get us anywhere. But please feel free to follow and stick with us. So we appreciate you listening. And JJ, any final words from you?
Yeah, folks, we don't pay to advertise the Chunk. So if you have a friend that you think likes sports, wants to hear us talk about them or video games or any of this other crazy stuff, just have them listen. Send them the link. Word of mouth is the best way to advertise the Chunk. So help us out, and we'll be able to reach more and more people.
Absolutely, and there's some big things on the horizon, I think, for the Chunk podcast as far as growth and accessibility. But we won't get into that yet. There's some logistics that we have to get to. But we appreciate you listening. I am Justin Doyle, JJ Mitchell on the other line here, and we will be back next week to hit you with the mid-season follow-up and the Week 9 preview as well, and kind of recap what we've talked about here and see if anything we said came true. Maybe Mike McCarthy will have a job. Maybe not. Who knows? But we'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks for listening.